Hey YouTube, how's it going? This is Biker Financial Independence. I haven't posted in over a year, so I thought I would do a quick post, talk about kind of earnings on Uber Eats and what you can actually make as an Uber bike delivery person. Again, the video quality is not the greatest. I'm shooting in portrait. I'm doing this on a phone. Lighting's terrible. And just doing my best to put out some content. I actually recorded a ton last year, but hopefully I'll get to that footage and kind of edit that in the future. But today I'm hoping to talk a little bit about earnings on YouTube. Sorry, not YouTube, but Uber bike deliveries. So Uber bike delivery is a side hustle for me. I just do it for fun and to get some exercise in. And so last year was actually pretty awesome what I was making in Seattle. So I would bike for a couple hours, and on the top end, I was actually making $30 to $35 an hour. And that was great because last year they're giving this bonus, a boost bonus. So if you ever are on Lyft or on Uber and you pay kind of like a surge fee, so this is at peak hours, you can make up to twice as much as your fees. So if it's $4 for delivery, you could actually get $8 for that pay. So during that time, I would make great money. So I said upwards of $30 to $35 an hour. But like a lot of things in the gig economy, they could change overnight. And that's kind of what happened on Uber bike delivery for me, was that one day I was making about $30, $35 an hour. And then suddenly I was making 15, maybe 10 on slower days. And so obviously the value of doing it was a lot less than when I did it initially. So today I'll talk a little bit about kind of contrasting some rides from last year to this year and seeing kind of what's the difference between the two. Hopefully you'll get something out of it, and just wanted to make another video. Anyways, welcome to your feedback. Definitely a lot of things I can improve in terms of camera quality, how I do editing and whatnot. But just to start, just want to get in front of the camera and do something interesting. So welcome to your feedback, and here's some information. So here is an overview of a day that I had last year. So it's in August of 2018. I had about 3 hours of online time for delivery, and I made about $88.55. 80 of that is on kind of the base fare, and then I get $8 in tip. On top of that, I actually got $5 in cash tips on this trip, so it came to about $93.55, which is actually pretty sweet. It works out to about $31 an hour, which is pretty good for just riding your bike around and delivering food. So in the next screen, you'll see what I made kind of on these separate trips. So on these trips, I made So I would make anywhere from around maybe $6 to even $14. I averaged maybe $10 on the trip. So I guess we can deep dive into this. I had some trouble scrolling and taking screen caps, so these are just static screen caps of kind of my activity. So this is a deep dive. You can see the ones with the green check marks, the ones I actually got tips on. So like the $14 one and the $10 one, you can see it there. A bit more than the other deliveries. So when you deep dive, so this is kind of one of the trips I made, and this is a really great trip. I wouldn't say this is the typical trip, but I got a $6 tip on this. So it was about almost a mile and 3/4 from kind of South Lake Union to Capitol Hill, which is a trek in itself. The elevation climb is kind of hairy on this one, but as you can see, I made $14 in about 13 minutes or so of biking, which is pretty good. So the next screen is kind of a breakdown of the fees. So my main fare, I made $4.42, and then with a boost, it comes to kind of $8.84, and in this case, it came to $8.83, and then I think just the rounding. And then with that, I got a tip of $6, which is pretty awesome. So all in all, I made about $14.83 for this trip. So that's really good. As you can see, kind of the boost really makes a big difference, right? Because it essentially doubles kind of your fare. And as I mentioned at the beginning, during this time last year, almost all the time I would get a boost of $2 2x during the core hours. So it was really worthwhile to make this trip. So going to the next screen, even without a tip, I would still make close to $7, $6 to $7 per trip. And so this one, pretty short trip, 0.7 miles, and probably a 5.5 minute bike. I made about $6.99, and so the core fee again is about $3.49, and you just double that, and that's how I got my earnings. So as you can see, if this boost kind of bonus ever goes away, then it would be pretty impactful in terms of kind of my earnings. So with that, it's a good segue into what I actually made on kind of a poorer day. And I said I'd contrast kind of a day this year, but I'll just take an example of an area. This is, I guess, not exactly apples to apples, but it gives you an idea of what you would be making if you weren't in a kind of a boost zone. And again, I think for the last year, the boost zone has disappeared, and for the last week or so, actually saw it reappear. Maybe it's because of the holidays, but as you can see, it's super variable. So I went from probably making about $30 an hour, pretty premium in Seattle, to kind of making about $10 an hour. And that's kind of below the minimum wage line here. And obviously I'm on bike because I just wanted to get some exercise, but for folks that are driving, this might not be the best gig of all time. So as you can see, I made 5 trips here and yielded about $20, and that's with a $4 tip. So a deep dive in kind of this one of these deliveries. Again, not apples to apples because I'm delivering in Bellevue and not Seattle, which is a suburb of Seattle. But it just gives you an idea what happens when they take away the bonus. And again, I stopped kind of biking over to Seattle to make those deliveries because it was just less worthwhile to make those deliveries, even though I do have a lot more fun biking in Seattle. So this was a double delivery, so I had to make 2 trips. I picked 2 pickups at one restaurant and made 2 deliveries. So I biked a total distance of 2.35 miles, and as you can see, I made $5.65. And if I had this boost of some sort, like 2x or 1.5x, I would have made over $11 on this trip. But because there's no boost, and just the finicky nature of the gig economy, again, as I mentioned, it's kind of, you're at the mercy of what they deem as kind of the fees. Obviously, Uber's not raking in hand over fist as they're kind of still building out their infrastructure on their platform and trying to make this company profitable. But as you can see, if you're a wage earner and you depend on Uber for kind of your livelihood, this is very impactful. I was making kind of twice as what I was making before. And so this is one trip example. And here's another one, which again is kind of tough. You see, you made a delivery about almost 0.7 miles, and you I think you saw in the previous one, you get this doubled, and so you always make about $7, but this one's $3.48, and you see now total it's $3.48, and you don't get that bonus. So I think the main takeaway that I just wanted to highlight was that with kind of the gig economy, it's very flexible. You have the ability to work when you want to and kind of be your own boss. Again, I do have a regular full-time job. Actually, I have 2 not full-time jobs, but I have a full-time job, another side gig, and this is kind of my free time exercise side gig. And so you can see you can make some money, especially when there's a boost. Again, when Uber started, I think they had way more boosts just to entice more drivers to come onto the platform. It's dissipated a little bit, and more recently I've seen a couple more boost offerings. Here's kind of a screenshot of one that just came up in the Bellevue area. You can see they have offerings varying from like 1.3x to even 1.8x. So given the time you deliver, there is a bonus. But again, given this gig economy, it's kind of hit or miss if it'll still be around for a while, or if you are just going to have to fight for minimum wages. Anyways, that's just a quick recap about fees. Probably super long-winded, more than you wanted to know, but I just wanted to give you a quick update. Probably will hope to have more videos about me biking, maybe more interesting videos about finance stuff when I have a chance. If you have any feedback, just leave it in the comments below. Be it constructive criticism, interesting criticism, or if you like some points of these videos. Thanks for your time, and hope to hear from you soon.